on the show last week. I'll go back to. Welcome along to the Cardiff City phone-in. We're expecting a couple more guests, but we're starting off tonight with Jonathan Wilkins, and fresh from the bench, a bit of linseed oil in the air wherever it is at the moment. To come in, Steve Thomas. Thanks, Steve, because Al was unable to join us this afternoon. Thanks for coming in. John, I'll go to you first. Obviously, at last, we scored a goal, and then we scored another one, which is like quite unbelievable, and we actually won. And since Boxing Day, we haven't done any of those things. So, what was the magic ingredient that turned it around for City this time?
They started off on the front foot like a bit, It was a bit of an improvement, and it was okay. Etty scored, and Grant took his goal very well. He placed that in the far corner very well, cracking goal. But then Perry NG needed to give a free kick away, and Stoke had the free kick, and I thought the keeper could have done a little bit better, like pied it away for the corner, like never in front of you. And then I think it was the Korean player. He was quicker before anybody else, when we were the two centre halves, should have blocked him coming in, just bang tap 2-1, But the second half, we are hanging on again. The substitutions, I just don't understand for the life of me. Went on defensive, and then we're going too deep. And a better side might have won that game in the second half, to be totally honest with you.
So to turn that phrase on its head, did the better side win the game?
Good question. I think Cardiff City just edged it. Yeah, just edged it. Cardiff City. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't leave the ground like against Blackburn and against Stoke. Really, really convinced. Relief with the 3 points. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah.
I'm this manager don't convince me. He never have, and he never will.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we'll come back to that. Steve, I don't know whether you can hear the audio where you are, but there's a bit of echo going on. So just turn your mic off for a sec. But I'm glad you were able to come in. Yes, it's echoing, Steve, for some reason. So there might be something to do with settings. So I'll just turn your mic off for the moment. We just marvel at how wonderful you look for the time being, if you can hear us. Steve, I was thinking of you because obviously Steve Thomas, rather, by the way, it's 3 Steves now, sorry. Because on the last show, you said, I'm pretty right, I think I'm right in saying this, you couldn't make the Blackburn game, but you were going to come down for the Stoke match. Yeah. And you said, so I'm going to predict a draw in midweek and then a win on the weekend. And your dream came true.
I didn't put any money on it, unfortunately, but I'm still working. It was, well, to pick up on what John said there, I thought the 2 players that I mentioned last week really made the difference for us again in Ruben and Carlin. And actually in the build-up for Carlin's goal in particular, saw a replay of the goal earlier on this afternoon, and Ruben was really scrapping for the ball in the middle of the pitch, and it was him that won it. Played the ball out to Carlin, who brilliantly sort of cut in and put it past the keeper. But it was a really enjoyable, really enjoyable, and the journey back wasn't nearly so bad after that as well.
I've accidentally done something crazy to the screen then. No, sorry. What about Steve? The thing with the Steve Thomas for now, yeah. Still the idea, because Colin Grant, he scored a good goal, right? But he cut in on the left and put it in with his left foot, whereas really he plays on the left because I think he's supposed to cut in and hit it with his right. So, was there any variation going on between? I didn't get there on the weekend. I had a gig on Saturday night, so I couldn't go to the game. I saw a couple of City fans later on. Plenty of City fans where I was at the Earl Hague, by the way, in Whitchurch. But is he still persevering then with the idea of this kind of inverted winger thing?
I think so. Yes. Again, just pick up what John said at the start. It was, first of all, I must say, Tete is coming for a bit of slating in all sort of quarters. I thought he had quite a good game on Saturday. Obviously, he got his header in and put us ahead. Bizarrely, I thought that Errol said we scored too early, but I think any goal at any time in the game is going to be a good thing at the moment.
I thought it was great we scored early myself.
Absolutely. Again, he's got Grant on one side, and then on the other side, of course, you've got bowler who again is constantly looking to cut in. I think that there was one occasion in the second half when what I was saying last week, I didn't know what Yeju was like at heading the ball. Well, he had a free header in the second half from a corner and kind of got underneath it. So that's the only header I've actually seen him get on. And of course, he missed that. Yes, he is still persevering, but as has been said on here and in various other places as well, the hope is that there will be more than 3 teams worse than us this season. And I think we are. I think at the start of the season, we all after last couple of seasons, we'd all have taken mid-table mediocrity. That looks like what we're going to have. And the question is, can we now push on? Are we going to back Errol? Are we going to get somebody else in? I suspect Errol will clearly be here, I think, till the end of the season. We can't another match off, surely.
Well, but before we started tonight, I was chatting to John, and he's got some thoughts on that, which maybe we'll come back to in a second. Steve, Mr. Steve Wiggy, hello. Can you hear us, Steve? I was looking. I don't know whether you can actually hear us. Steve Wiggins.
Hi, Steve. Can you hear me there?
Waving on the radio. It doesn't work, does it? Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Hi, Steve.
Can you hear us?
Hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Hear you fine. Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
It's like that, all the jokes about, the lockdown, with the seance,
the wonders of Apple computers.
Yeah, well done. You're in anyway. Steve, normally at this point, we hand over to you for the next half hour.
It's been a traumatic day today. So
go on. What can you say, Steve? We can hear you fine.
What you want me to say about Saturday, Steve?
Yeah.
You want me to say about Saturday's game, yeah? Yeah. It's a little bit of a delay coming back from your... You haven't got the delay button on by about 30 seconds, have you? Yeah, all right. Saturday was better. I wouldn't go overboard with praise for the manager, especially because I think he almost cost us the game. And I missed what Jonathan said and only a little bit of what Steve said. But when Carlin Grant went off and he decided to put Winkle in at number 10, he virtually pulled the shutters down on our Saturday, and he came very close, I thought, to costing us the game. We should have just pressed on against Stoke, and we virtually conceded territory and the game to them second half. And I thought they were very unfortunate not to get a draw in the end. I think we just shaded it, like Jonathan said, over the 90 minutes. But second half, I mean, I thought Stoke were going to score at any time, and primarily that was down to the manager with negative tactics again. He moved Ruben Caldwell, who was doing really well at playing at 10, thank heavens, but then he moved him out to the left-hand side, and then eventually got the shepherd's crook on him. And but a little bit better. We're up for it Saturday, and scoring the early goal fired the crowd up as well, Steve, which was nice to see. Albeit the first goal was a bit fortuitous, but Carlin Grant's second goal took it superbly. And it was a little bit better, don't get me wrong, but I'm still not convinced by the manager in a million years.
So, Jonathan, if I come back to you, Steve's listening on Lithuanian time, so he's just picking up the odd word now and again, yeah. But which is quite funny, but we carry on. So, John, when I was talking to you earlier, you said you've never been convinced by Errol Bullitt, yeah? So even when we had a bit of a good run and we were pushing towards the top, what are your major reservations with him, John?
Well, I went away to Ipswich and we went 2-1 up there. And I thought Ollie Tanner was having a good first half up there. And the manager said he wasn't tracking back. Well, I don't know what game the Bullitt was watching, because he tracked back once Tanner, won the ball, and started another attack. And I thought he was our outlet up there, Ipswich. So he took Tanner off, took someone else off, I can't remember. And then he went all defensive, and we went deep. And it was same again, up Ipswich, wave after wave of attack. And they got the win. It's just negative. It's just, it's really frustrating, I find it, to be totally honest.
And what do you think that's about then, John? Is that because he said, I think he was quoted in the papers this week when he's saying about he doesn't regret taking on the job, and he's he seems to be using Wales Online as a kind of a communication system to explain what he's trying to achieve, which you would imagine means he probably wants to stick around a bit. Why would he be so defensive and so negative? Is it maybe because he wants the job so much, or is he just that kind of conservative type? I wonder.
I don't know if that's the Turkish way of playing football. I don't know, Steve. But for me, the best form of defense is attack. If you're dropping deep, and the other team, they can smell blood, and they're pushing up and all that, it's only going to be a matter of time. They score. It's only be a matter of time. It's like what I shared with you, Steve, and then when Al was on the show, and Steve, like, when he's setting the football team out, it's about getting the right balance.
Yeah.
Knowing to attack and when knowing to defend. In other words, you all got to work as a unit. And his formation and his tactics, for me, are wrong. Steve and I keep saying it. Grant up top, Ruben Cole just behind him. And also, the other one, which is getting my echoes up, why ain't he playing David Turnbull? £2 million and he's on the bench. What's all that about?
Yeah. And what's your thoughts on the Bowler Grant thing? Having Bowler on the right, cutting in on the left, and Grant cutting in on the right. Having the inverted wingers, because again, they're just like there's really barely any service. So the first one was from a free kick, and then the second one it was a good run from Carl Grant. He took it well, but arguably on his wrong foot. What's your thoughts on that?
It's same old, isn't it? The visiting teams. Or if we go play away, we've been sussed out. Teams don't know how to play us. I'd love to be a defender against a bowler. Bloody hell, geez. Just show him his right all the time.
Yeah, you know what he's going to do, don't you, really?
Yeah, exactly.
So the comment on there, on the screen, Steve Thomas, Stoke were poor. That's how he managed to score the remarkable feat of 2 goals in one game, which really, let's face it, shouldn't be remarkable, should it? So we beat them by the odd goal. But looking at the stats, Steve, maybe it's because of what Steve Wiggins said, actually, that we kind of parked the bus in the second half when we could have kicked on. But in terms of stats, he had more shots on target, more corners, less fouls. So on another day, we may well not have come away with a win.
Well, yeah, you can always say that. I thought in the first half we did dominate them, and for the first time for a while, we did actually take the game to the other team. We did actually attempt to attack. We didn't have too long to wait for our first attempts on goal. Carlin got into a few good positions. Even in the second half, we were looking threatening. I noticed our friend Richard Davis has put a comment on about how Joe Rawls made a massive difference in the midfield. He did. He was playing more where he should be playing, and Siopis seemed to also have a good game in battling for the ball for us. So I don't think I agree with the comment that the Stoke were poor. There were completely different propositions to Norwich the previous week. But a win's still a win, and the way we've been recently, the first win win at home since the 9th of December, first goals at home since Boxing Day. I think we've got to try and look at the positives, notwithstanding the points that Steve Wiggy and John have made there. I still think it's something to at least take a bit of relief from going forward for the rest of the season.
Okay, I'm going to try and hand over to our judge in Estonia now. I'm just going to put a message on the screen for Steve Wiggins. And this is a comment which something that John was talking about earlier. Steve Wiggins.
Yeah. There's a 10 on there, Steve. You probably can't see it. You want me to talk about what John was on about earlier? It's a really bad delay on my side. I don't. So just refresh my memory, John.
No. I put a comment on the screen. And if Steve can hear this,
like I said earlier, the now I can hear you now. I wasn't hearing anything just then. Both teams we played this past last week, both teams were really poor teams. Blackburn especially, and I know we haven't really probably gone on that game yet, but we should have come out of both games with 6 points. If we'd have been half decent, I think an old Dave Jones team with Bothroyd and Chopper, we probably would have put 4 or 5 on Blackburn. And I think if we played the same way in the first half as the second half, as we did the first half on Saturday, we probably would have scored more goals. But unfortunately, the manager went back the other way. I know what else to say about Saturday. The 3 points, as Steve said, were very welcome. Yes. We should have beaten Stoke anyway, so that's by the by. It was nice to score a goal at home. I know that that the supporters are coming for some stick because we're not supporting the team. But like I said to Jonathan on a personal call last night, Steve, you've got to give the supporters things to shout about, and we haven't been given. It's been chronically bad, and still, you were talking about the inverted wingers. I don't understand why. Number one, why Bullets tried to come out in the press and explain himself because the way he's playing, because we can all see the way you're playing and it's not working. So for me, if I'm a manager or if I'm a coach as part of his team, I'd be saying, listen, Errol, Mr. Bullet, whatever, you're playing inverted wingers. Apart from that one goal at Watford, it hasn't worked at all. And what I don't understand is why he persists in trying certain ways. And during that game Saturday, when when Carlin Grant had to go off, that was a perfect opportunity for us to see our £2 million man. And there's another conundrum there. If you pay £2 million, excuse me, for a man who's been playing football with Celtic, what's he doing sat on the bench?
Steve,
I don't get that.
Can you hear me okay now?
As well as our midfield did in the first half, and they did okay. I think one of the main reasons was you had Ruben playing at number 10, so he was pulling a few strings there, and Joe Rose did make a difference. But if Carlin Grant's got to go off, you don't bring Ryan Wintle on and play him at 10. You bring on Turnbull, who's surely a better attacking option, and stay on the front foot. But no, we stepped back then, and that's my big beef with the manager. He's too defensive all the time, Steve. Against Stoke, we should have put him to the sword and probably beaten them 4-1.
Okay, I don't know. I'm still not sure if Steve can hear us. Okay, but there's a message on the screen now from Raniero Garcia, who clearly, like you, John, even after that. I mean, let's face it. It's Blackburn and Stoke. We had arguably two of the worst sides in the division, or in the worst form, and we didn't. We managed to win one. The first one was a bit of a bit drab, and he says here, I don't think Turnbull is a Bullet signing. The committee is sticking their beak in again. Firstly, do you have any thoughts on that? In terms of Bullet's status at the moment and its control of the situation at Cardiff. John.
Well, they got a transfer team down there, and they like a recruitment team in it, and is any communication down there? Like, is it are these Bullet signings or not? Like, he was complaining to the board, wasn't he? He's very good at deflecting. What I can see with this manager, he's blaming the board. He didn't get the players, and I think the transfer window was a pretty good one with the players he had, And then he's been blaming the players. He's been blaming the fans. God, it's only the ball boys left to blame now, I think. So. Is any communication down there? The club badly needs a director of football down there. I know that badly needs a director of football.
Well, again, Raniero comes in with a comment on that, which takes us back to what we were talking about earlier. And it's interesting. I mean, we've won a game, on the phone, and we were on such a bad run. Obviously, fans were so unhappy for such a long time. But I want to come to you on this one, John, because we talked about it before the show. Can you see that comment on the screen there?
Yeah, I think as soon as we lose points. Yeah, agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, because what we've got a dozen games to go. So if you agree with that, what would be your, so it says, I think as soon as we reach 50 points, we should let Bullet go and give it to the new man to assess for next season. Now I know you've got a particular new man in mind, John. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So if we do agree with that, tell me what your rationale for that is, because some would argue, wouldn't they? Like Steve Thomas said earlier, at the beginning of the season, I suppose we thought we were in for a season of consolidation. And if we ended up around mid-table, then that's kind of okay, and we could kick on. But you'd be of the opinion that as soon as we're safe, that you'd be happy for Errol to move on.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%, yeah. And I was talking to Steve last night, and he's on the payroll. Ramsey, player coach.
So at that point, if once we have 50 points, generally, you're okay. We're only a few points off that, so you'd have nothing to lose, and you give Ramsey a go. What we don't know, I suppose, is a couple of things there, really. Whether Aaron Ramsey would want to do that, it's a big decision for him, and whether or not he has any kind of coaching qualifications. I suppose.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained, Steve, innit? All we can do is ask, innit?
So I think Steve may have a different
a great manager, Steve, isn't he? Wenger.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on,
yeah, he did. Yeah, but I mean, there's
Steve.
lots of Steve Thomas. Yeah. There's lots of let's face it. Most people in management have played football professionally. Most of them have. Not all of them. So it certainly doesn't make them good managers. Aaron Ramsey is very articulate, charismatic, well thought of by all, well respected player, which is a good starting point. But what's your thoughts on that, Steve? Do you see all of that as premature? And here we go again with another manager. What's your actual thoughts on that?
I hate disagreeing with my friends and colleagues on here, but I don't think we should. We've changed managers far too much. Now, I think we've not really seen what Errol Bullock can do. I think at the start of the season, we all had our hopes put above perhaps where they should have been. We're definitely punching above our weight at the start of the season. I think it's the wrong thing to do to say we should get rid of Errol. Can I come back on Aaron Ramsey as well? Don't get me wrong, I love Aaron Ramsey. Saw his first game as a 16-year-old at Ninian. Followed his career throughout. Enjoyed him coming back when he came back on loan after his injury at Stoke that time. And he's made such a difference. He's the best player in this league on his day, in my opinion, when he's fit. However, we don't know, as you picked up there, Steve, what his coaching qualifications are. And just because you're a good player doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good coach. Always think back to the example of Bobby Moore. Bobby Moore played under Alf Ramsey.
Yeah, a great example.
And was only manager of Southend United for a very short period. Just couldn't do it. It's the same argument as when people come out and say, "Oh, ex-players should be referees." Not necessarily. I actually attended a talk by Howard Webb on that once when he said, "Not necessarily." It's like, not all players make good coaches. Not all players make good. They might be good players, but it doesn't mean they're good at other things in the game. I'm not decrying Aaron Ramsey at all, but my controversial. Look forward to seeing all my friends at away games to take this up with me again soon. But I think we should stick with Errol for next season, and I'll quite happily come on in and hold my hands up and say I was wrong next season if you'll have me again, Steve. But I think we should stick with Errol.
So Jeff Dela Cruz has come through and says he thinks Ramsey actually has nearly completed his coaching badges, and there's a nice comment coming in here for you, John, from Paul Williams. He says, "I'd love to meet Jonathan in a pub. Our views are so connected. We could invite Wiggy, and hey ho, some Cardiff fans actually telling the truth about how bad it is. Come on, it's dreadful, like it or not. There's a kind of a groundswell, I suppose." Steve Wiggies, there's a groundswell of opinion against Errol Bullock, despite us winning this match. Where are you at it with it, Steve? Yeah, Steve.
I would put Mr. Bullock on the plane to Turkey tomorrow, Steve. And that's how I felt for a while. He's he didn't inspire me, and what really annoys me about, and I've nothing against the man personally. People think I have, but I haven't got anything against the man personally. It's just the football that I've been watching at Ninian Park and watching away has been chronically bad. And what I fail to see in Bullett's style is he's getting things wrong all the time. Like again on Saturday, trying to shut up. I'm going back on old ground, trying to shut up shop early. Where we've seen that in so many games. The Ipswich one was the prime example. We should have beaten Ipswich away if Ollie Tanner had stayed on the pitch. But he's not learning from his mistakes, and that's my biggest beef with the manager. I don't like the style. He seems to set up to not lose a game as opposed to try and win it, and I don't like that, especially at home. Yes, he's done well to get us where we are. But if you think back to some of those games, Sunderland away, Preston away, all those games where we're a bit lucky. We're grateful for the points on the board, but I don't honestly see Errol Bullett taking Cardiff City any further forward since October, November last year. And I think Jonathan's little idea there, which he mentioned to me last night, is not a bad idea at all. If you think about the pedigree of Ramsey, he's an international. He's played under probably one of the best manager/stroke coaches in the world in Arsene Wenger. He's primarily on the front foot. He's nice and attacking in his own play. He's played it in Europe. Why not give him a shout if he wants it? And it's not. We haven't got to go out and get anyone then from the outside. I mean, there's other people available, people like Gary Rowett and people like that, proven championship managers. And like I said to a couple of people, and I have done this week, I think if you look at that squad on paper, that the manager we've got at the moment is not getting the best out of that squad. People like Josh Bowler, not refusing, even though he got asked a question about Carlin Grant in the press interview in the week, he still refuses to play Carlin Grant as centre forward. Again on Saturday, we've seen what good goal scorer can it be if he gets in certain positions. Why won't he play him at centre forward when that's where he scored all his goals for Charlton, Huddersfield and West Brom? Why is Robinson nowhere near the squad? He's allegedly not very well. And the reason is he's fallen out with the manager. And I think what the manager does with our creative players, he sucks all the creativity out of them. And I've seen him, like I've mentioned before on this show, Steve, I've seen him on our side, Bowler first half. I've seen him giving Bowler a right roasting for not tracking back. So our forward players are thinking more about, the manager's not going to like that because I haven't tracked back and put a foot in, rather than concentrating on what they're best at. So Bowler, Caldwell, Grant, all those attacking-minded players, let them create more, Steve. Let them put them on the pitch. You've got enough defensive players to defend. He's made sure of that by picking the midfield and the defense. But let the attackers create more, and he doesn't do that, and he refuses to do that, and that's why I don't think he's the man to take us forward. I would change him tomorrow, Steve. I really would.
Okay, let me go.
And we still need 6 points to be safe.
Yeah, we do. We've got 12 games, so we got a chance. Half a point a game, we'd be all right. Steve Thomas, just coming back to you. There's a couple of comments. There's a great name, Michael Whoops, which is a brilliant name. I'll just try and find that one. Sorry, this one here. Steve, let's face it, mid-table is likely to be the best we can get with our squad. Amal Ramsey is a reasonable pick. He needs experience first, and the last thing we need is more upheaval. Because I'm just thinking then, Warnock, Morrison, Harris, Lamucci. I mean, Lamucci was in, then he was gone. I was quite disappointed actually when he went. There's been a fair amount of upheaval in terms of the front man for the club, but also, of course, with the terrible stuff going on with the Salah story in the background and having an embargo and everything else. So, is there not an argument? Give you a chance to explain, Steve. Is there not an argument for stability and a platform to build on?
I think there is. I think we have had an awful lot of changes managed. Okay, it's refreshing in a way that we've had the same manager all season so far. having had three last season.
Yeah.
Again, what are we trying to do here? I think Mehmet made the point at the start of the season that he was bringing in Errol on a longer term basis, and I made the point last week about Slutsky as well. Slutsky coming in at Hull, having been a great success with both CSK Moscow and the Russian national team, but couldn't hack it with Hull in the championship, basically. Errol was very much untried, and he did start us off very well. I think I come back on that as well. I think we should definitely stick with him till the end of the season. I personally would look very carefully about more upheaval and going back to square one again. The last thing I want is to have a reset, going down to League One again. I think whichever manager we have, if it's Errol or if it's somebody else new coming in, I think they've got to be back. We cannot keep shopping at a budget supermarket. I best not name any of them. Rather than trying to look at the top table, we're not looking at the top table. Let's at least look somewhere in the middle. Again, coming back, I see that Neil Harris has been reappointed at Millwall until from relative obscurity. It's usually forgotten, of course, that he came in replacing Warnock and did actually get us to the playoffs that season. Although a lot of us have forgotten about it because it was during COVID. He did actually get us there, but again, it's difficult to judge on what's happened when we change managers so often. I agree. I was pleased to see the likes of, with all due respect to them, Mick McCarthy and Harris, and of course the debacle that was Steve Morrison being in charge. I think we're suffering from that because we brought in so many mediocre players. Then I think that's the problem. If Mr. Bullitt or anybody else is backed, then we have to do something. And I think they seem to have been trying to get rid of the players. They did ship a lot out. I'm still, as I said last week, I'm not convinced that Ugbo, who scored again a couple more goals.
Yeah. He's in the team of the week on the championship thing. Did you see that?
Absolutely. So I saw the goals. He looked like he was doing quite well to me. Whereas Yeju comes in, perhaps he made the wrong choice there.
Can you see what's on the screen, Steve, as well, up from Raniero Garcia? Ramsey as manager, nice idea, but not the right time.
I'd agree with that. Said about Craig Bellamy as well, didn't they? Said about Craig Bellamy. Craig Bellamy's sensibly learning his trade under Vincent Kompany. Perhaps Aaron Ramsey, if he wants to go down that route, should be doing something similar.
Yeah, but you wouldn't bring Craig Bellamy into for diplomatic reasons, would you?
No, absolutely. Also, one point that puzzled me actually is the crowd.
Steve, can I just mention?
Go on, Steve. Steve Wiggins.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just want to something that Steve said there, and all right. Yeah. Something that Steve said there, and I chatted briefly with the guys last night about it. This is something else. With this has been swirling around in my mind for months and months and months. It's the way that our players are being coached. All right, okay. So I only played centre forward at senior league level. I was half decent. I scored a lot of goals. I had some good coaching from good players, ex-Chelsea players. I'm not going to mention any names, but good players who coached me. And what I see down at the City, well, let's take Ugbo as an example, right? When he was here, I thought he was one of the biggest donkeys we've ever had, right? He goes to Sheffield Wednesday, and all of a sudden he's banging in goals. I mean, one of those goals he scored on Saturday, I said to Jonathan last night, he looked as sharp as a razor, but we didn't see any of that at Cardiff. And I see the same with the Tete. One of the girls we were chatting to last night said that the coaches were in the warm-up, which I didn't see on Saturday. I got there a little bit late. I was chatting to people. The coaches were telling him to back into his centre half. I'd love to see a training session. I don't know what our forward coaches are teaching our forwards, but they're not teaching them to score goals. I watch it. Tete did a little bit better Saturday, yes, but he runs all over the place. He never keeps. I was always told, keep the whites of the goals within your eyes. Always have a look back, see where you are, check where you are. He didn't do any of that. He didn't make the little runs. But look at Ugbo. How can Ugbo all of a sudden, bang, start whacking in the goals for Sheffield Wednesday when he couldn't hit a barn door with us, Steve? And the other thing I'm going to touch on now as well is, even though Bullet puts the youngsters on the bench, how nice would it have been to see Joel Colwell just get a little 15, 20 minutes or whatever at Plymouth? He puts the young kid, what's his name, Ashford, who I haven't seen play, but a lot of my friends watch the youngsters and say that he'd be worth sticking on for 20 minutes. Why not give him a game, Steve? And you know, we come back to this argument of, you know, are they too young? Someone said to us this week, they're too young to throw in this situation. Well, look at teams like Sunderland, Bristol City, Preston. They've all thrown youngsters in, and they're all perform. Well, Preston are flying again now. Bristol a little bit above us in the league, not much, only on goal difference, but they're all playing their youngsters. It's all very well to stick them on the bench, but let's have a look at them. We all know, Steve, through history, and we've all been supporters for a long time. If we got our own players on the pitch, Cardiff boys, you know, local boys, local talent, the supporters will get behind those youngsters, even if they make an odd mistake. So let's have a look at Joel Colwell. Let's have a look at Ashford. Let's have a look at them and see if they are up to it. I don't think we're gonna see him under Bullet. He won't play him. Steve Cooper would.
Yeah. John, the comment on the screen there, which is a fair comment, really, because I do think that's really quite significant. You know, that a problem is that Bullet is Dalman's man. He won't want to lose face over Bullet. I mean, at the time when he was brought in, he was very clearly, you know, it was Mr. Dalman who found this guy, you know, Turkish connection and all the rest of it. It's a big decision. It's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? You know, don't you think, in terms of the way this it's playing out?
Yes, yeah, it is tricky. There's no doubt about it. As you quite rightly said, is Dalman's man, and obviously you don't want to lose face in it and pride and all that in it, you know. But and apparently he's put money into the club, whatever, Dalman. But I agree with Wiggy 150%. If we did keep Bullet on next year, can you see any change? I can't. It'll be same old, same old, same old. Defensive, negative, slow, ponderous. You know, I'd love to be proven wrong, but I don't want him for next season. I really don't. I want to see attacking football. You know, I want to be entertained. You know.
Well, I thought we did when he first came in, Errol Bullet. You know, we did actually. We were scoring goals, we were winning games, and we were there or thereabouts, you know. But what I found with him myself is, John, is and it came again in the comments in the press this week, how loath he is to actually change stuff. You know, this is how I do things. This is the way it is. And he doesn't seem to be very at all flexible, does he? You know.
No. That's what could cost him, is stubbornness, isn't it? You know, repeat the same thing and doing the same thing and hoping for a different result is a sign of insanity, isn't it? If it's not working, you change it, you know. And I don't think he's capable of changing it myself personally, you know. And don't forget, though, Steve, we played Leeds at the right time, Leicester at the right time,
true,
maybe at the right time at the beginning of the season. We probably played them at the right time.
Yeah, playing Ipswich again in a couple of weeks, it might be a different picture then.
Yeah, and Dudley Moore could get a couple against us as well, couldn't he?
Yes. On the screen now, Mike McAndrew. Thanks, Mike. I'll stick with you for now, John, and I'll go to Steve Thomas. Our next 2 away games will define if Errol stays. But, you know, we can't keep changing managers. We need some stability for once. You know, Nigel Blues comes in with a comment on this again in a second as well. You know, honestly, I know you're not by any means a fan of Errol Bullet, yeah. But do you see the argument for the fact that we had transfer embargo, we didn't have any cash, we brought in a lot of loans. The one player that was expensive, obviously, is Turnbull, who's a midfielder. We didn't bring in, you know, any kind of decent striker, really. Should we possibly consider giving him another season and also supporting him, you know, financially over the summer? I know what you're going to say, but I had to ask you. That's a straight no from you, John, is it?
Is that me, Steve, or
No.
Steve T?
No, just John at the moment. Yeah.
No. Thanks, but no thanks. No.
Okay.
No.
So Steve Thomas, I know what Steve Wiggy's going to say now. Steve Thomas, I was saying again, Steve. I know you don't make a big thing out of it at all, really. You don't mention it, but you're traveling back and forth from Nottingham to watch Cardiff City. We hadn't scored a goal since Boxing Day, and you also go away, right? But you seem to be quite kind of calm and collective and sort of patient compared to others.
Well, thank you very much. I take it as a compliment, Steve. A lot of the comments that are coming in are about stability. Who are we going to get? Who are we going to get that stability with? And as was pointed out in the comments as well, Errol is very much Mehmet Dalman's man. So again, of course, mind you, he was instrumental in Solskjaer in as well. So that didn't go well, did it? But I think I would prefer to go for stability. And also, you mentioned my calmness. I remember the dark Durban days, the Kenny Hibbett days. I'm talking about travelling. It was a heck of a long journey home after we lost 4-0 away at Chester City. We're lucky to get away with 4. It was a dreadful night watching us going out the cup in a replay at Brentford on a Tuesday night against Hayes. Finishing 3rd from bottom of the 4th division with only Scarborough and Torquay underneath us. Goodness me! My son's been coming with me from the start of this century. I think he only had the one season in League Two. He's been to Wembley for the twice in the FA Cup semi-final, final, the playoff final, the League Cup final. We've seen us win at Old Trafford. We've seen us slaughter Aston Villa when Mendes Lang was unplayable. And that fantastic team that went up. So the reason why, Steve, I said last week as well, I have to keep going to these games because if we do win a game, I'd have been gutted if I didn't go on Saturday. All these trips, not seeing us win. I'm so pleased. Yes, there's a lot wrong with it. There's a lot wrong with it. Yes, substitutions may have been wrong, but then who can he bring? Who could he bring on? Who was going to be attacking?
I get that, but going back to the point that Steve Wiggy made earlier, I mean, I didn't watch the game yesterday. By the way, the comment on the screen is valid as well. Yes, Bullet is Dalman's man, but of course, it's Vincent Town who has the final say. So I didn't watch the game yesterday, but I understand that Liverpool, who seem to have a lot of fans in South Wales, may I say, just as an observation, they played an awful lot of youngsters, and they got a fantastic result. So going about changing it, going back to what Steve said, something like I have to say, I get what Steve says. Steve Wiggins says quite a bit there with the idea, which Steve you'll get totally as well. Bringing on some youngsters and the City fans, there's nothing that they're going to just give them, total support, aren't they? Do you think there's an argument for, Keane or Joel or one of these players just get a few minutes in the game, particularly when you're winning?
There is definitely towards the end of the season. I can understand. I'm not an Errol apologist. Need to make that point. I can understand him not bringing the youngsters on Saturday. If we'd been 3 or 4-1 up, as it looked like we might be after the first 20 minutes, half an hour, you could have understood him blooding them then. But actually, the important thing on Saturday was hanging on. And yes, we were hanging on. And Stoke did have a couple of reasonable chances, but we did hang on and we did get that. That was the wrong time to blood the youngsters. However, hopefully, we will have a game between now and the end of the season that I'm struggling to think who it might be against, where we may be 3 or 4 goals up, and then we can start blooding the youngsters. The important thing is make sure we're safe. When we're safe, then we can start looking forward. Be that with Mr. Bullet, be that with somebody else, be that with youngsters on the pitch, be that youngsters not on the pitch. I'm hoping that we will be able to enjoy the last few games of the season, safe in the knowledge that we'll be in the Championship again next season.
Yeah. Well, I've got something I want to put on the screen now. I don't know how well Steve can hear me, but I'm going to put a comment on the screen from Nigel Harris. And maybe Steve Wiggins, you want to respond to this. Hiya, gents. It's been far from perfect. Bullet hasn't got the players he wanted, but considering he had no money and has no striker, it's been a grind, but we look safe. I think he deserves a chance to build with money this summer. However, it's still not known, which is a really good point. It's still not known or guaranteed that he wants to stay. Mr. Wiggins.
Yeah. Personally, Steve, I don't think he does. I just want to go back to a couple of things again, and I just want to mention Bullock calling his players out against Leicester and Leeds, saying they weren't performing. Then he called the board out the week after, and then to call the supporters out last week was the lowest of the low. There's no need of that. If you want to, number one, if you want to call your players out, don't call them out in public, because a lot of those players will switch off, and I think some of them have. I don't understand this logic sometimes in putting all this out in the press all the time. Keep things behind closed doors, but don't slate your players and say that they underperformed against Leicester or Leeds. Why? Because it was you that put the players on the pitch. It was you that picked the tactics, not the players. You, the manager, and he won't front up to make a mistake, Steve. That's number one. Just question before I go on Nigel's point. The point about Tan owning the club, yes, he does own the club. And on Saturday, you will notice lots of empty seats. I noticed so many of my friends didn't go Saturday. They're people that have had season tickets since 1968-ish in there. One of them who was thinking of going, because his 5 friends weren't going, he didn't go either. So there's 6 people who've been supporting the club for a long, long time. Never mind the Durban days, whatever, or however far you want to go back. So they're not coming down. Another example, and Mr. Tan will be looking at his balance sheet on Saturday from the bars. Level 3, where I go, normally if the City are doing okay, is 3 and 4 deep at the bar. They're going like the clappers, selling beer, inflated prices, blah, blah, blah. Diet Coke, £3 a can. Thank you very much. They can't go quick enough. Saturday, Steve, I walked in there straight away, straight to the bar. It was dead in there, dead. So the amount of revenue coming into the club, even though even though that didn't count for everything, that's just something. On Nigel's point, I don't think Bullett's a happy man at all. Something, as we all know, has gone on behind the scenes. He probably wanted Kiefer Moore as his number 1 striker. But what I'll quickly throw in about that, I wouldn't pay 50 grand to have Kiefer Moore at Cardiff City, because that's just silly money. And if that's the money he's allegedly gone to Ipswich for, well, best of luck. They're going for it, and they might have a shot at promotion. But 50 grand for Cardiff City for Kiefer Moore was a no-no anyway. But I don't think Errol Bullett's a happy man whatsoever, and I think he might even consider walking at the end of the season anyway, quite possibly.
So I don't know whether you can see Jeff Dela Cruz's comment on the screen, Steve Wiggins, but what I will take this year is what I call the 7-side cup. Being on top of the Wurzels and the Jacks at the end of the season is the best we can hope for this year. They're really big games, aren't they, though, Steve? They always are, They do matter, don't they? Yeah.
I
John,
think, as someone said in the messages as well, Steve, the next. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
Well, I was going to say I think the next few games will determine which way we're going. I fear for the Bristol City game. I've got some very good Bristol City friends who I used to work with up at Real, and they got some really good youngsters. They're only just above us in the table, but they're full of energy. We got to really front up to them on Saturday. It'll be determined by the side that Bullets puts out, of course. But I think we could be put to the sword Saturday. And then, just to mention our friends at Junction 45, I got some very good Swansea friends, and we have good banter. They got some really good kids in that side, Steve, and I think that's why their fans are giving them a little bit of leeway, because this fella they got down there from Notts County is blood in the youngsters. They've signed this kid Ronald from Brazil. And he's banging the goals he scored up at Sunderland. We got some tough games coming up, and Ipswich Town, like you said earlier, if we lose all 3, I don't know. I know we got Huddersfield sandwiched in the middle there somewhere, but potentially we could lose all those games. Ipswich certainly is going to be a real tough one, but the other 2 as well. I'll be amazed if we come out of those with victories. An odd point here and there, maybe, but Bristol City away, tough one Saturday, really tough.
So John, just going back to what we were talking about earlier with the managers. It's a fair comment from Andrew Davis. That one of the problems we got here at Cardiff City is not many managers want to work with probably want to work with Vincent Tan, because it hasn't. It's been a lot of turmoil, John, hasn't there?
No, absolutely, yeah. If I was a manager, I'd say to him, look, you sort out the business side of the thing. This is my team. Let me run the ship down here. Simple as. But if he's interfering and all that, he's going to get other managers fed up, and they're not going to come, and they're not going to put up with it.
Yeah, and also,
Simple
John,
as.
I mean, the thing is, we still don't know the figures. We still don't know the outcome, really. I've mentioned it a couple of times tonight. The Salah episode, if you like, has had a massive impact on Cardiff City Football Club. Moving forward, however, if that plays out in the way that the club want it to, then maybe that will allow us to push on. But there's no doubt that that's been significant. I'll risk asking you this. What's your thoughts on Vincent Tan? Are you one of the ones who, say we didn't have Vincent Tan, we wouldn't have a club? He's, look where he's taken us over the years. Or are you more of the kind of red shirt side of the fence and
No.
looking for someone else?
No, going back to that kid, I hated it. Oh God,
Sorry to mention the red shirt.
No, it's okay. Cut me on blue like that. That was a bad move. That divided. I couldn't think of anything worse, to be honest. You divided the fan base and all that. But
yeah.
But going back to what you're saying, Steve, what Nathan Blake was saying with the Rob Phillips phone in and all that. Apparently, those two consortiums wanted to buy Cardiff City, but don't forget, Cardiff City or Vincent Tan, I don't know the exact figure, but it could be over 120 million. So whoever wants to buy the club are not going to take that debt on, and all the other stuff to go with it as well. It's too much, and I think we're stuck with Vincent Tan for the foreseeable future. I really, really do. I really, really do. And
yeah. And if we're stuck with Vincent Tan, Steve Thomas, yeah, I'm going to show you a comment about something else in a second. But if we're stuck with Vincent Tan, it is really quite fascinating, with Cardiff City. We think about the people, Ken Chu and Dalman and all the rest of it, and the way the club kind of does its stuff. But if Dalman was the man who seemed to be, the front man for bringing in Errol Bullitt, and then that goes horribly wrong, I just wonder, how that again affects his relationship with Vincent Tan, and how Vincent Tan plays that and responds to that. Going back to the fact that somebody said earlier about, why would a manager want to come to a club which is so unstable?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think Vincent Tan, if you compare his profile now to when he was first at the club, and of course when we got promoted, it's a completely different kettle of fish now. He has noticeably stepped back, but of course we don't know what is the extent of Dalman's control. Is the amount of money that he's putting in loans now, it seems, affecting things. I'd like to think that they're all acting, but I don't want to pick up on acting in the club's benefit. But I pick up on Jonathan's point. Yeah, whatever happens with Vincent Tan, there is the case there that he has put the money in. There's a lot of people who would say that where the reason why we've done so well because of the money he has put in. However, to say it was a mistake to change us to red, I know Steve Wiggy said about the good people have been going. I know people who used to go week in, week out and have never been back since then. And the red night when he gave out the red scarves, we played Brighton. I think it lost 3-1 at home to Brighton that night. People in front of me have been going for years and years, who I've known for 20, 30 years, were walking out saying, I can't do this. All these red scarves everywhere. That was a huge mistake. Whatever he might do to rectify that in future, it's always there that he did that.
Yeah, so that's kind of on his, that's on his a blot, isn't it, to say the least, on his record. Just while we were talking about that, it's just not. Jeb Dela Cruz is a lifelong City fan. He lives in Ireland now, and he keeps an eye out for Ollie Denham because he's playing for Sligo, and apparently he's looking really good. I'm really disappointed and surprised actually because I imagine he's gonna. I think he's out of contract at the end of the season. He looked so good. I've only ever seen him play once, in all honesty, against Liverpool. He looked great.
Yeah,
and now he's just totally, looks like a total goner.
He did. I mean, that was an opportunity of us blooding the youngsters, of course, because we had Ollie Denham in the centre of defence in that game, and this is against Liverpool.
And Eli King, of course.
Eli King, and then of course you had Isaac Davis, and our goal that day was scored by Ruben. So, and also, of course, Mark Harris was a promising youngster at the time as well. We should have had a penalty when he was brought down in front of the commentators.
We should. Yeah.
And then, of course, their goalkeeper should have been sent off as well because he came out and he completely came out. So it wasn't the fact he was the last man. It was the fact it was just an appalling tackle. Yeah. It was out of control. That was a red card.
So, Steve, just to respond to what you just said then, Mike McAndrew, back to the players, wouldn't it be great to have, going back to what you just said, really, someone like Isaac Davis on the bench at present with some pace? And he goes on to say that Nat Phillips had a good game on Saturday because he was actually settling in well. But, the idea of Isaac Davis, because he gives us something else, and he's going back to what Steve Wiggins said earlier, Steve, local lad, one of our own and all that.
Yes, absolutely. I think he was frustrated at his lack of opportunities. So perhaps going out on loan to Kortrijk, however badly Kortrijk are doing, has been good for him. Because apparently I read that the Kortrijk fans love him. He scored some good goals, made some good contributions. Perhaps putting him out on loan, thinking back to when Ernie went out on loan to Morton. Perhaps I'm going too far there. But players going out on loan elsewhere, getting that experience could benefit in future. Perhaps Isaac is somebody to push on in our first team next season.
And Steve Wiggins, and coming to you now, but Michael Woops has said that National Geographic Channel on Sky has a program about Salah tonight at 9 p.m. So that would be interesting. Unbelievably tragic story, incredibly sad story. But what you're Steve Wiggins, you coming away from that story, because obviously that's a point for City fans who want to watch that later on. Bringing in the youngsters, Isaac Davis and Joel Bagan and these kind of lads, would they be somewhere near the squad in your world?
Absolutely, Steve. And I think we mentioned before, and like you're similar to me. Bagan is someone who I think should have been around the squad and could definitely have filled. I mean, Jamalu Collins. I mean, come on, he brought him on again on Saturday. The kid's had a really serious injury. He's crying out to be in the Maldives on a sunbed. He shouldn't even be anywhere near the squad, especially now we got from City, who I've got to say looked really good on Saturday, Wilson Esbrand. But to bring Collins on, and even when they brought him on, I said to John last night, they targeted again. Soon as Jamalu Collins was back on left back, the side, Stoke side on Saturday, were attacking down that right side. So people like Bagan should be around the squad. He'd do okay. And Isaac Davis as well, like Steve said there, and Jonathan said, is someone with pace. So, and I always think back to when he was in the side, and that one time that he bombed down the left flank and put a lovely ball over for Kiefer to head the ball in, I think it was. But we're desperate for some pace up front, and he was very good at closing defenders down. All this playing out from the back business, he'd be good at closing them down. And Ollie Denham, like you said, Steve, that one game which I saw him play, which we all saw him play at Liverpool,
looked so good.
He was absolutely
Thank you very much. Just the restaurant are asking me what I want for tea tonight. Thank
you. Oh, nice.
Oliver Denham at Liverpool absolutely looked. He looked assured, Oliver Denham. And I'm amazed that he's still not a Cardiff City player, because just off the back of that one game, I was really impressed with him that game. Okay. And he's been unfortunate for whatever reason, Steve. So, like you said, they're all City boys, all local boys.
Yeah. Okay. So Steve's just going to put his order in now. So we'll just move on from there for a second. But I've got quite a long thing to read from Simon Willis from Cardiff City World, just to say to Cardiff City World, and great to see you going back on the radio as well, Steve. That's also great news. It's great to get us on Cardiff City World, and since we've done that, Steve, you've been associated with the show for a while. The numbers have gone up again. Loads of comments on here from people, and it's really good. So I'm really happy about it. But so he wanted me to read this tonight. Coming up on Cardiff City World this week, and he's doing so much stuff for Cardiff City. He'd like everyone to try and subscribe and like and share if we possibly can. There's a history of Cardiff City, episode 1, with official club historian Terry Phillips, who's been on this show loads of times. That's out now. View from the Chair with Premier Bluebirds Martin Davis, who's an excellent interviewee, including also an interview with Callum O'Dowda. There's an Everywhere We Go vlog with young Katie Williams. Nice to see some female fans involved, who's doing an amazing job as a young fan of the future. Super Kev McNaughton Uncensored on Tuesday evenings. The Fleur Hour fan show, match reaction shows, analysis, previews, ex-players, much, much more. It's sounding like our old days in commercial radio here, Steve, but it's a good one, really. CCFC content 7 days a week by fans for the fans. And also, we're always looking for more fans to get involved, so please get in touch with Si or email cardiffcityworld@gmail.com. So I wanted to read that out because this obviously goes out on various platforms. It goes out on community radio stations and all the rest of it. John, we'll just whiz around quickly just to end up for tonight, looking at the next couple of games. Obviously Bristol away being the biggie, and then we got the Huddersfield home game, which is also a big game because they're around us. We need to win those games.
Absolutely.
Do you want to give us a couple of predictions, John, for those?
I can't see us getting anything at Bristol, especially if they start off like they did against West Ham in the Cup. If they start off like that, we'll be in trouble. I really do. Can't see us getting anything at Bristol. The Jack game, tough one. Can't see us getting anything there.
Huddersfield at home?
Huddersfield at home. That's only winnable one, to be honest with you. Huddersfield at home.
Ipswich is not going to be a pretty side, probably, but we might be surprised.
Well, that could be like the knowledge game, men against boys,
Kiefer Moore getting a hat-trick.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Steve Thomas, any thoughts on the next couple?
It depends which Bristol turns up. I mean, obviously they played really well against West Ham, but if you can't raise your game in a cup game like that, you're never going to. I'd prefer the Bristol team that lost 2-1 to Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday, when Sheffield Wednesday had a player sent off, and Ugbo scored 2 goals as well. So I'll go for a 2-1 win for us against Bristol and a 2-1 win for us against Huddersfield on Tuesday night. And I hope you're coming on here next week and saying I was right.
I hope so as well.
Right, Steve.
Steve Wiggins, you got time to respond to that quickly?
Bristol, I think it's a loss there. A point against Huddersfield. We'll get stuffed at home against Ipswich. I honestly can't see us getting anything against the Jacks, Steve. I'm struggling to find a win out of those 4 games.
Okay,
sorry.
Look, we're all right. We're at the end of the show. Steve's orders going in. It's obviously a very expensive one, so we'll let him go on with that. But just to mention a couple of things before we get to the very end. Mickey Villan, this is Greg to kind of goes like this with the show. What the hell is that tune City come out of the tunnel to? It's absolutely dreadful. And Robert Flynn says, and the tannoy is too loud. And the stewards to attention. But thanks for a great show. So we've still got plenty of other stuff to moan around, which is always good. But to the panel tonight, thanks very much. Great show. Thanks for your time. See you all soon. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.